The Wii, a truly incredible console that shaped the direction of motion controls for every console to follow, and had some absolutely banging exclusives, even some of them holding their own without the need to fall back on the available technology of the controller. So, now that we have that out of the way, I want to say that the title isn't clickbait, and it's something that's perplexed me for years, ever since the release of the Wii. Why did it fall behind in specs compared to other consoles? Before we get into this though, I should probably talk a bit about the
My name Mondo, got Nintendo, Mario over here blowing Nintendo, Sonic in the back, he always running fast.
Starting at the 5th generation of gaming consoles, we have the PS1, released in Japan in December 3rd, 1994. An amazing console that truly revolutionized the format of games forever, being the console to bring CD-ROMs to the mainstream. There was actually the NEC PC Engine CD-ROM 2, that was released in 1988, but it didn't have the funny Bandicoot on it, so... Then if we fast forward almost a year and a half later, Nintendo releases the Nintendo 64. And it ran on cartridges, had a smaller storage capacity, and couldn't really cater to a lot of third-party releases. But the first-party games were incredible. Mario Party, Mario Kart 64, Mario 64, Pokemon Snap, and Beetle Adventure Racing. Chef's kiss. This trend of first-party games holding the console together will continue, by the way. The Nintendo 64 didn't sell as well as the PlayStation by any means, but because of the vast and consistent first-party games, Nintendo had a really dedicated fan base. Continuing the trend of tardiness, Nintendo waited around for almost a year after the PS2 released, the best-selling console of all time. Microsoft had also entered the arena by this point, boasting one of the best-selling launch titles ever. So how was Nintendo going to top this?
Got you one of them bloody game box things.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, fucking hell.
What? GameCube? Where's this? Isn't an Xbox? Fucking GameCube.
Yep, GameCube. This plastic cube sold 21 million units, which was a massive downgrade from the Nintendo 64's 32 million. But on the bright side, this was actually one of the best times to be a Nintendo fan. You had exclusives like Mario Kart Double Dash, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Metroid Prime, and Italian Power Wash Simulator, as well as some new titles such as Pikmin, Animal Crossing, Kirby Air Ride, and Luigi's Mansion. Then we fast forward to 2005, and Microsoft is getting ready to get ahead of the market, being the first in with the first ever HD console. But like getting your groceries from an NQR or any other discount food store, these things had about a 50% chance they were already out of date and about to expire. Microsoft decided to launch this console with a fun little feature where if the ring goes red around the power button, it means it has cracked solder joints around the GPU flip chip package and thermal stress from heating up and cooling down. Just a quirky little feature they decided to add, I don't know. Meanwhile, PlayStation waited patiently, analyzing the competition, and decided, yeah, we're just gonna wait until the technology is there, and then in 2006 released the PS3 almost a year later. These things had a better CPU, a custom cell processor, and a Blu-ray player. Yeah, remember those things? In 2006, this was actually a big deal because you no longer needed a separate system to run Blu-ray. Just buy a PS3 for Little John, then kick him off so you and the wife can watch, Ghost Rider? So Nintendo, being the last on the market, surely had something huge up their sleeves. Is that a fucking TV remote? Released on November 19th and in December for most other regions, focusing on bringing motion controls to the forefront with its super innovative Wii Remote and Nunchuck attachment. Plus you can just hold it sideways for more traditional ways of play. This really is the future. It even runs in 480p. Wait a minute. Nintendo was so focused on being able to create motion controls that didn't feel clunky or gimmicky, they forgot to add the HDMI port. Luckily, as I said earlier, Nintendo is always great at making their first-party games look incredible due to simplistic art direction and putting a focus towards fun gameplay rather than spending a big budget on
AI system to it. So we have fish move out of the way when you get close to them.
Even though this seemed like the craziest idea at the time, it actually paid off. The Wii straight up outsold the PS3 and Xbox 360 with its wider appeal to families. It had incredible first-party games and a whole new avatar system that had its own games, which none of the other competition could really pull off at the time. And the motion controls were implemented well with all of the first-party games. Truly a testament to how thinking outside the box can get you ahead, or rather, thinking outside the cube. Now we arrive at 2012, and it's about time for the 8th generation of consoles to be announced. We've pushed the boundaries of the 7th gen HD, so what could be next? A year before Xbox and PlayStation announced their new consoles, Nintendo actually got ahead and announced the Wii. The Wii U. What actually does the U stand for, you might ask? Literally nothing. Nintendo finally figured out how to add a HDMI port to their consoles and juice this thing's specs. It's almost as fast as a PS3, guys. Almost. In all seriousness, this console flopped hard. Aside from Nintendo World, Zombie U, and Breath of the Wild, which a lot of people don't even remember actually released on the Wii U, this console barely had any games. I was actually confused about what the innovations were this time around. You were given this ugly-ass iPad to play on that aimed where you move it, which was kind of fun for Splatoon, but was more refined in the Switch anyways. This thing only sold 13.5 million copies, and really just obliterated Nintendo's reputation. I could probably make a whole separate video on the downfall of this thing. It just really was a shame. Going from innovative geniuses to desperados trying to catch lightning in a bottle twice, it just didn't click. Wait, click. Oh yeah, like the... On March 17th, 2015, Nintendo teased a new console, referring it under the name as NX, and described it as a brand new concept. And a brand new concept it was. This time not so much trying to push the boundaries of motion controls and trying to cram as many features into a controller, Nintendo focused on the convenience for the player. Before the Switch was even a concept, one of the cool features about the Wii U is that you could actually take the games handheld and play it separately. The only issue being that you had to be in certain range of the console. This, however, was fixed and one of the main selling points of the Nintendo Switch. The console would charge in the dock, allowing you to connect it to your TV or monitor, then when it's done charged, take it out on the go. The console didn't release with a lot of launch titles to gawk over, but it had a lot more focus on third-party game support for 7th gen games. And also had Mario Kart 8 and Breath of the Wild ported over from the Wii U as launch titles. Then 6 months later, we finally got a new mainline 3D Mario game that was arguably on par with the quality of Breath of the Wild, being totally different games of course. Then Nintendo had the perfect timing of releasing a new Animal Crossing right in the midst of COVID, which probably only excelled how many people were hyperfixated on this game. The Switch really seemed to only be getting better and better, having new banging titles, Switch Online innovations, updating content for each of the packages, and it's finally more powerful than a PS3. Incredible. And now here we are. The Switch 2 is on its way, and to be honest, it's kind of looking like a Wii U situation again. They've smashed the competition with Xbox and PS4, and are now making a sequel out of it. Sounds familiar. Aside from how much they are actually charging for this new console, I'm actually just as concerned with the fact that the console is almost 2 generations behind at this point. The capabilities of the Switch 2 are in between being better than a PS4, but not as powerful as a PS4 Pro or a PS5. So yeah, we're going to get some third-party titles, but it seems like the 8th and 9th generation don't produce as many games as they once were. This was fine for the Switch because there were still plenty of relics produced in the 7th gen. Yeah, sure, these might only be concerns for AAA titles, but what happens if the Switch 2 can't handle any 8th gen games? We've seen this happening towards the end of the Switch's cycle, just take a look at Mortal Kombat. But aside from this, another thought that plagues my mind is how much potential Nintendo has to make great original games. It's what carries them through the industry, but just imagine the potential with the processing power of an 8th gen standard. They've worked around this by using more cartoony styles that don't require great details in their first party titles, but take a look at Astro Bot. It's a simplistic design and can honestly look like a Nintendo game at times, but the particle effects, lighting, and physics make the game so much more satisfying to look at and play. Not to mention how much cooler it would be to have a Nintendo game have this much going on screen at one time. Imagine if Nintendo just took a focus towards making their games as good as possible and having the roster of like a GameCube combined with a console that was actually up to modern standards. Imagine having these kind of things in a new 3D Mario or Metroid. I could finally have that Super Mario 64 remake and really see the terror in the penguin's eyes as I drop him into the infinite skybox in front of his mother. Not to mention the crazy accuracy in the rumble of the PS5 remote, and it genuinely having good speakers built in. Sorry, but what were they thinking with the Wii Remote? I know this is much easier said than done, but these new features like being able to see your friend's head in game or watch their game in 240p at 15 FPS just aren't appealing. They're honestly just so far behind the curve, considering everyone is just going to be using Discord anyways. I am genuinely curious to know your thoughts and how you think the Switch 2 is going to pan out. Or you could let me know your fondest or not so fondest memories of the Wii. Anyways, that's enough yapping for one day. I'll see you in the next one.